I just helped take down a $5 billion money laundering scheme and got banned from Reddit, Nextdoor, and put on an FBI watch list in the process.
Let's walk. Time to go.
Excuse me, who are you?
This is the absolute batshit true story about the Santa Cruz Rail Trail scam. Now, most of the developed world understands that trains make a lot of sense if you have the population density, tax base, and economic centers to support them. Santa Cruz is not that. We're the second smallest county in the state, with the only real industry being mountain bikes and a flying car company. And for people to afford the most expensive housing market in the country, about a third of workers commute over Highway 17 to make a buck in Silicon Valley. Nothing that necessitates a train along the coast. And with no freight or economic centers, the line's been abandoned for 20 years. And this is where shit gets crazy, because one day the second smallest county decided to build the most expensive per capita commuter train in the world, $4 to $6 billion. And public support for the project all hinged on the guarantee that there would also be a bike path. But for obvious reasons, a bike path alongside the rails ends up costing 50 to 80 times more than if you just put it on top of the rail bed, requiring 30 new bridges, loading concrete viaducts, retaining walls, grading, and drainage. And with the capital cost of $2 million per train rider, you might as well pay these people to quit their job and stay off the freeway. Now, the project would make a lot of sense if you had a civil engineering firm and had close ties to the government. Enter Mark Massetti Miller. Being the lead architect and financier of the rail plan, his company was first in line to receive millions of dollars in civil engineering contracts. And good on Mark for doing what every bureaucrat-adjacent businessman would do in that situation. But the real money in saying that there's going to be a commuter train in 50 years is establishing a transportation corridor and preempting local zoning ordinances for high-density development, also known as transit-oriented development. Now, I don't like being lied to, and I certainly don't like being called names on Nextdoor for knowing the truth. So I made 24 videos highlighting the insanity of the project and its supporters. And this is where I get in trouble with the law, because after putting $100 of pressure treated down to repair a pedestrian crossing in Aptos, not really out of genuine concern for people's safety, but to highlight the incompetence of the RTC and advocate for community control, they tried bringing the hammer down on me, and I only know about it through a Freedom of Information Act request. After I offered to pull my lumber up, they concocted a credible threat to alter or vandalize rail infrastructure. They then contacted the Santa Cruz Sheriff and some chick in the Department of Homeland Security. They then start brainstorming for contacts in the FBI and the Domestic Terrorism Unit. Sent in a cease and desist letter that my mailman took care of, and nothing else came of it. In 2022, some train idiot smashed the window out of my van, and an organized troll farm infiltrated Reddit and Nextdoor moderation to have me and other dissidents banned for life. And just as the train narrative was collapsing, the state of California threw us $100 million to build a trail alongside the track, the biggest active transportation grant in state history for the most expensive commuter train and bike path in history. But that $100 million wasn't even half of what was needed to build 7 miles of trail. And this is eventually how we won, because if we couldn't afford to build a $250 million segmented trail, then we'd have to return all that money. So after 20 years and $50 million in studies, they're just going to pull the tracks and build the trail. And this is probably the last video I'll make on the topic, so thanks for sticking with me.